The entire world is going to pivot from deterministic processes to non-deterministic agentic process. That's what's going to happen. I'd say probably 7 out of 10 processes that have ever been built will be augmented, rewritten, enhanced with AI agents to be more non-deterministic or agentic. If you're that business that believes that you can operate successfully without agentic or non-deterministic agentic processes, you are wrong. You will be the blockbuster video of the modern era. We humans have to take control of this situation. And what I mean is AI. It's wonderful that Sam and his band of merry women and men, as well as Anthropic and, a couple other companies are marching towards AGI. Well, that doesn't mean that we have to live in a world defined by Sam Altman. In fact, I refuse to live in a world defined by a dude named Sam.
Welcome to Data Framed. This is Richie. In the last few months, a lot of CEOs have given public statements about transforming their company to be AI first. As cutting edge as that sounds, today's guest started that journey years ago, and they've already written a book about it, namely Digital Impact. I want to find out what he learned. From previous Data Framed episodes on organizational transformation, a recurring theme has been that buying technology is the easy part. The tricky parts are changing your processes and retraining your staff. So today we're going to learn about the human element of AI transformation, as well as the practicalities of building enterprise AI. Our guest is Steve Lucas, the CEO at Boomi and former CEO at Marketo. At Boomi, he's building an integration platform as a service business, which is a fancy way of saying it's software connecting all your enterprise systems together. Coincidentally, this is an essential step for building enterprise AI agents. With so many executives blowing hot air about AI, I'm really excited to speak to someone who's actually transforming their business with it. Let's hear Steve's story. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Richie. It's good to see you and glad to be here.
Yeah, great to chat with you. Now, I want to pick up on something you said in your book, that it doesn't matter whether you choose SAP or Oracle, Microsoft, Google for your enterprise stack. The choice of technology vendor doesn't matter. Talk me through, why do you say that?
None of those companies are terrible companies. That was the main point. Maybe that got lost. They're all great technologies. But to a certain degree, all of those companies want to obligate you as a company to their stack. That if that's a shock, like, welcome to software. That's the way it's been forever. But it's that kind of stack obligation that I think starts to rotate all organizations that I've ever worked with in my 30 years into a bad place, right? We end up choosing this whole like best of breed argument, right? We choose that as versus, kind of like best stack. And my view is, choose what's best for your business. That's the beauty.
Okay, I guess that's kind of good that we're not just alienating like all the major tech players all at once. But I like the idea that, you want to choose best of breed stuff, like pick the right software for your business.
I'm not going to come out guns a-blazing and say, they're all bad. But having worked for SAP as a case in point for the better part of a decade, I appreciate the stack obligation objective on the part of the vendor, but that's not best outcome for the customer.
Okay, so talk me through then. How do you pick your tech stack?
I think you have to start with objectives, outcome, and the solution. What are you trying to deliver for your customer? And that's going to vary wildly. If you're Campbell's Soup versus, say, Boomi, those are two wildly different organizations. We may both need an ERP system, but the needs are radically different. So I think thinking about your end customer first and the outcome, followed by what is the simplest solution that you can pursue. I'm a big believer in the kind of least common denominator, the smallest unit required to deliver the solution gives you maximum flexibility. For me, it's just 30 years of seeing the tech debt, the tech obligation, the stack debt that piles up on organizations over time that I think is it's both backbreaking and soul crushing at the same time.
Absolutely. I think there's no idea of a fun time having to deal with lots of different pieces of technology, half of which are out of date. I agree that a simple tech stack sounds amazing, but how do you get to that? I mean, certainly, like even a data company, a relatively small company, and we've got lots of different pieces of technology in place. How do you manage all that?
The way I think about the world, and yeah, I have a lot of conversations with people. I still to this day, I love the movie The Matrix. I know it came out in 1999, but still, because at the end of the movie, when Neo, the protagonist, sees the world for what it is, the ones and zeros everywhere governing things, he's able to manipulate it. And I think that that's requisite for any leader, not just technology leaders today, and seeing the world as it is today. Look, there's like five major things that go into any tech stack, right? And people are, I'm immediately going to regret this because I'm going to get like 1,000 notes on LinkedIn. But you have your infrastructure layer, your security layer. If we go through the 7-layer OSI model for those that are nerds in the audience, which we won't, but you've got like apps, data, APIs, code. Those are the big elements that go into a tech stack. And obviously there are more than that. But really any business, take that Campbell's soup example, right? Their job is to ultimately produce the best soup as a case in point that I'm going to love as a consumer and do it at a high profit but also high quality margin. And that's challenging. So you're going to need, both front office, back office technology. You're going to need manufacturing technology. You're going to need all of those things. But the hard part is not, can I pick SAP to run my manufacturing? That sounds like the hard part. It's not. The hard part is, how do I connect all of the systems that I choose to be that Campbell's soup, as a case in point, and orchestrate all of those systems with seamless business processes, ensuring the data is of high quality so we can make good decisions about running our business. That's hard. I mean, think about it. It's 2025. Have you walked into a company yet where they'll just say to you, hey, you know what? We have all the data we need and it's perfect and we run a frictionless business process. I mean, we've invented AI, for crying out loud, in the world that we live in. We should have clean data, fluid business processes, and yet we don't.
I'm right there with you. It does seem like any time you want to achieve something, you need to interact with like multiple different pieces of technology. Quite often they don't talk to each other. Is there a solution to that? Like, how do you work with multiple bits?
Yeah, there is. I mean, well, that's partly what and this is not meant to be kind of self-aggrandizing. That's partly why my company, Boomi, exists. We exist because this stuff is hard. It's hard to connect to all of the data in your company. For one person, now multiply that times, if you've got 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, or 500,000 people that work inside your organization, it's hard to just connect to the data. Then how do you ensure that the data is accurate, timely? That's hard. How you then weave that data into business processes that have impact for your company? And how do you make sure that they're agile, not brittle, so as the world evolves, that your processes evolve? We live in an imperfect world, yet the business processes that are built in the SAP, Oracle, Microsoft systems, they're very brittle, right? I have seen many a business and a process crater just because someone changed a field in a database, and that can bring the whole system down. It doesn't flex, right? It just breaks. And we need that bend not break mentality. Now, the exciting part, not to say AI too quickly, because we say it, I think, too much. But the reality is that AI, and particularly agents in particular, will give or gift business processes more of that flex where they can bend and not break and they can adapt. For whatever, 20 years, every SI or systems integrator out there has been talking about the agile business, right? I can show you how unagile your business is. Let me go remove a data table in terms of access to a process, and everything is cratered, right? It's still very fragile, and that's what gets me excited about this AI world, is just the flex that we can build into business processes.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic at the moment. Is so many companies just trying to automate business processes, and the idea that you can use AI agents to do this. is just huge at the moment. But yeah, I can certainly see how there are a lot of very just brittle, fragile processes. It was like, okay, fine, your customer intake form works great until the person doesn't have a surname or something, and then everything is broken. Okay, so can you talk me through? It sounds like maybe like have trying to engineer more robust processes is a good idea. Talk me through how you might want to change your processes in this way.
My number one enemy in the world of business today is expense reports. I hate everything about them. They're soul crushing, they're boring, they're tedious. How is it in 2025 that I have to do a bunch of work to just submit an expense report? And I'm using this obviously as a broad analog. The person that submits it and it's like, it goes off and you wait a week and then someone rejects it and you have to redo it. Like that the whole thing is just soul crushing. And if you're a company that, I mean, think about it. If you're a company that has 10,000 employees, and on average, let's be really generous and say that the average employee only spends 5 hours a year. That may not seem like a lot doing expense reports, but that's 50,000 hours a year of wasted productivity, 50,000 hours for that one company. And if I walked in the door and said, hey, would you like 50,000 hours of productivity back? Most companies would say yes. Now multiply that times many orders of magnitude for, something much more complex in manufacturing or, process management, whatever it is. But this is exactly what AI can do. And that's what we've done here at Boomi is we've actually put in an AI agent that manages the entire expense report approval process. So there's no humans that are involved in approving an expense report anymore at my company. A, because I just hate them, but B, because that's what AI does. And you say, well, how does AI benefit the expense report approval process? I submit the name of one city as the reason why AI should handle expense reports, and that's Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the source for all expense report exceptions. It never fails, right? Every sales kickoff, there's some expense report you're looking at going, what? How, right? And it doesn't matter. It could be the three-person $2,000 dinner, and you're like, you got to be kidding me, right? But there's always exceptions, right? In this world, and in a deterministic world, that this is the if-then-else process world. If this happens, then do that. And by the way, every process on the planet today is largely deterministic. You can't write enough if-then-elses to handle Las Vegas. It's impossible. It's not possible. But with AI, you can have AI which can reason. Now, Apple might argue against that with their latest report, but I believe that AI has the ability to reason. But at a minimum, AI has this new generative pre-trained transformers can improvise. It can say, well, generally these things have happened, and generally these expense reports have been approved, and generally these exceptions are okay, so I will generally approve it. The process doesn't break down, or the expense report get rejected and you recycle and you waste hours. So what we're seeing, Richie, and this is long walk run short point, the entire world is going to pivot from deterministic processes to non-deterministic agentic process. That's what's going to happen. I'd say probably 7 out of 10 processes that have ever been built will be augmented, rewritten, enhanced with AI agents to be more non-deterministic or agentic. Now, and we can do that, by the way. That's something that we physically do. Is we can take literally every business process you have and we can modernize it to be more agentic.
That's very cool. And certainly I'm with you that expenses are boring. No one wants to do them. Automating them seems a really good idea. It does raise some interesting questions though. Like you mentioned the idea of Las Vegas. Everything's weird there. You're going to get some funny reports. I presume you're going to want a human to monitor those things. I mean, they probably don't necessarily want to read what happened in Vegas, but yeah, when do you want a human involved in these agentic processes?
Well, I think, Richie, you are getting to the heart of the matter here, which is I don't think the discussion should center like societal level discussion on is AI going to do more for us? Yes, like that's going to happen. Is AI going to replace some jobs? Yes, it will. It will take time to do these things, but other jobs will emerge. Here's what's going to happen. As we humans seed more work that honestly we don't want to do anyway, Who wants to do the soul-crushing, tedious work of watching every little exception to every... No one wants to do that. So we'll cede that work to AI. But you need then humans in the loop. You need a what we call well, you need a watchtower. We actually have something that we've built called the control tower. It's literally the agent control tower. So as you create agents to do things, manage and approve expense reports, watch a manufacturing process, ensure that one of your most important customers never gets an angry, letter or strongly worded from a system that it should never print it. Whatever we seed to AI, we have a control tower that can literally watch thousands, tens of thousands, millions of agents at one time and bring humans in the loop when it matters. Is an agent hallucinating? Is it deviating off a well-worn path that you never intended? And so our agent control tower does exactly that. And that there's a whole industry that's going to get built around, is being built right now around, okay, humans cede more work to AI, but we need to be brought into the authorization loop. However, as you know, this is a cycle. What will happen is we'll get more comfortable with the AI handling the expense reports. We're never involved. And we'll move on to seeding even higher ground. How high that goes, I do not know. If you're Sam Altman, you say, oh, everything, but it's his job to say everything because it sells more Chat GPT.
That's a very cool setup. I like the idea of having a control tower agent to watch the other agents. We'll maybe get into that architecture in more depth in a moment. But first, I also have a question related to this around responsibility. So our chief finance officer, no way you can like get anything past him, but it feels like an agent, maybe you could kind of game it a bit in order to get your expenses through. So is there a level of responsibility there? Like, do you want an agent taking responsibility for expenses being passed, like if it's a sketchy expense, or do you want a human to take responsibility? Like, where does the buck stop?
Well, it's interesting because if you look at the cycles of technology innovation, and AI, but humans have gone out and built things like applications. Then we need to build systems to govern those things. There's a whole industry around governance solutions, right? For data and decisions and expense management. Here's what I'll say. There is no CFO that will keep their job if they don't have an AI governance platform. That you won't. You can't successfully adopt AI. Think about healthcare. What hospital would sanely adopt AI without a governance platform? I mean, you and I could sit here, Richie, and we could pontificate for hours about all the amazing things which I truly believe AI will be able to do to help us live longer and provide better care. And I was at a hospital last week on Monday, and they were showing us this AI system that detects a fall by any patient in any hospital immediately. It's fantastic technology, but you have to be able to govern it, as you have AI that at some point will produce a prescription recommendation. But if you don't have the governance, the oversight, CFOs won't have jobs. This should be the number one priority for a CFO and a CEO, frankly, is bringing in an AI governance platform before they bring in AI.
Okay, so this seems like an important ordering of things. So, suppose like your CEO says, "Okay, we're going to be all in on AI. We need to run an AI transformation program." What's the kind of steps? You said you do AI governance before you start building stuff, but like, yeah, talk me through what are all the different steps in order then.
Here at Boomi, we actually did it the wrong way originally. So for my big giant software company, we started with AI. We built the expense, mainly because Steve's ranting in the background here going, I hate expense report. We've built a customer success management agent. We have agents that literally, I'm not exaggerating, that produce marketing materials that like a perfectly formatted marketing slick that is bespoke to a customer. We no longer either, through PDF, not that we would actually print it anymore. We don't hand out generic marketing material. You get your company's marketing materials exactly from Boomi with no human involved. That's the kind of stuff that we're building. So we built all that very, very cool. But then we quickly realized as we were building our own agent governance platform, wow, we're really going to need this. Like, this is a highly necessary thing. So for me, obviously, the first thing that you want to start with is how are we going to prepare our data and our applications to feed AI. The number one rule that has existed in software, specifically data, analytics, you name it, is garbage in, garbage out. So it really doesn't matter what AI does for you. If you can't feed it positive data and feed it high volumes of quality data, it won't learn to that 99.999% accuracy level that you want within your business. That's number one. Data's got to be ready. That rule doesn't go away just because we now have magic AI. Then number two is, how will you govern it? That has to be or step number two. If it's not, you are 100% speaking from experience doing it wrong. And this is in every industry without exception. But think about highly regulated industries, healthcare, banking, dot, dot, dot. With AI, would you, Richie, accept it if I said, hey, I'm a retailer and I'm going to have a customer support AI that generally is accurate 90% of the time in recommending a product? Sure. Right? That's great. I might even get a promotion for 90% of the time. But you go to healthcare and you put in an AI that's right 90% of the time. Not acceptable. Not at all, right? So that demarcation point is incredibly critical and varies wildly by industry. So we have to be very cognizant of that. But so that's why governance kind of first, right behind data. And then once you get governance, then it really is an outcome-oriented conversation. Is where do we think the low-hanging fruit? And I believe that AI has both a top-down opportunity, and let's use something like pharmaceutical as a case in point, right? Everybody immediately goes to something like protein folding, right? Which is like way above my head. Let's go get AI to simulate protein folds so we can accelerate, new drug discovery. Awesome. That's not what we do. What we do is bottom up AI. That is, look at every single business process in your organization. So in that pharmaceutical organization, the expense reports is the very lame example, but nonetheless, it works as an analog. But every single business process, so billing, collections, you name it, that hospital that I was at last week, they said to me, and I quote, Steve, one of our biggest challenges in our back office, to run the business of the hospital, their number one challenge is that all of these claims handlers are the payers. They have these sophisticated AIs that have become really, really good at rejecting claims. They have over 1 million rejected claims a year through AI alone. How does a hospital compete with these ridiculously well-funded insurance companies when it comes to, I did legitimate work, I'm submitting a legitimate claim, and AI over at the payer finds some clever way to not pay for it? You got to fight fire with fire. So that's when you must be in the AI world. You have to have an AI that can receive that just magically rejected claim, understand why, rework the claim, and then resubmit. Humans cannot compete in this world. Not anymore. And so those are high requirements. But just to get back to your point, I think it starts with data, then it gets into governance. And then my strong recommendation is look for the 1,000 flowers that can bloom across your business processes that create millions of hours of discovered productivity.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of scary. The idea is going to be like your company's bots versus another company's bots, though, kind of fighting it out. But yeah, maybe that's the world we're heading towards.
That is the world, right? It's things that you and I like. I would never. I've never even dabbled in things like day trading with stocks, right? Because that world is largely dominated by AI now. And as that world is dominated by it, so you just think it's just too sophisticated, too heady for me. But darn near every business process, again, I think it's kind of a 7 out of 10 will just go this way. And so if you're that business that believes that you can operate successfully without agentic or non-deterministic agentic processes, you are wrong. You will be the blockbuster video of the modern era.
That's a pretty sort of sharp warning there. So it sounds like, because you mentioned that the requirements are very different from industry to industry or from use case to use case. So is there a step before this then where you've got to try and figure out, well, what are the suitable use cases for my business?
Yeah, well, that's the whole outcome, right? The outcomes are the use cases, the scenarios. And, I'm sure folks tuning in as well are going to go, well, Steve, what about the model? Absolutely. You want to select the right model. I'm presuming that people will do their homework and choose the right model. that's been grounded or, either fine-tuned or, potentially grounded in your industry context, or you should do that work. Now, my company does that work as well. So we can connect to the data, build the business processes, add AI to it, and also help you with grounding models for those use cases. That's stuff that it's fascinating because 2 years ago, if you and I were chatting, just not even 2 years ago, a year ago, 1 year ago, when you and I were talking about AI agents in the enterprise, probably most people listening would have kind of, hiked up their pants a little bit and said, I don't know about that. When is that coming? And here we are talking about AI agents, right? And it's totally normal. Like, this is a very normal conversation, is where are we going to deploy AI? But it would have, a year ago, it felt like wizardry or witchcraft. Wow, how do I build an agent? We've literally created an agent building platform, not just the agent governance, but we've given our customers, 23,000 of them, the ability to create AI agents with just words, not code. I can just describe the agent I want, and our system builds it for you, and then you can drop it into a process. So now that we've gone from like it's witchcraft to this is like not even sleight of hand, just very straightforward. Now I think we're going to get to the point where the vast majority of jobs, certainly in my business, we're actually doing this right now, where accountants, they won't do accounting. They will build agents that do accounting for them. And so, or attorneys that will build agents that do legal work for them. In fact, in my company, we're taking a person or more, one or more people from every single department in my company, every single one, and we're going to be retraining them on how to build AI agents with our own platform to do what they do, and then they will be the supervisor, the orchestrator thereof. I don't think it's that we don't have any intent to replace people. I just believe that AI can make a person like me superhuman, right? I can do 5 times the work I used to be able, or whatever it ends up being. So I'm not going to be the guy that sits around and pulls the Sam Altman and prognosticates that AI is going to take everybody's jobs. But I do think for the next 5 years, we'll see this productivity renaissance that really is going to make us superhuman. Beyond that, will there be some jobs, yes, that change or go away or replace? But I'm not a believer that AI just becomes this magic super intelligence in the next 24 months.
Okay, so yeah, very much grounded in sort of practical improvement. So it does sound like you've got a fairly sophisticated agent program going on at Boomi. I'm curious as to like what order you decided to build things out. Like you mentioned, like a lot of the operations jobs, they've now got agents. Like, what are the first agent use cases you started with?
Well, that was what I called out earlier. So it was like expense reports, customer success and support being two examples. Every company on the planet has done the same thing, I believe, which is this is interesting. Let's try something, right? And we've gone through and tried and learned. But then immediately you bounce back to, all right, how do I scale this across my whole company? It's kind of like useful in a narrow sense, but exactly what you asked. How do I supervise it? How do I bring a human in the loop? How do I govern it? And so that's what we bounced back to. And that's like 2 years ago, we started building this agent control tower. But I think the use cases, my recommendation for everybody within earshot of this discussion is pick the low hanging fruit, identify the soul crushing, uninteresting work, the tedium that no one wants to be involved with anyway. And let's move that out of your business. People will write songs about you if you can do that. And it was interesting because, Richie, we had this, when we launched the customer success management agent. Now we have physical humans that we call customer success managers. And when we first said, hey, we're going to build a CSM agent, there was, and I mean universal weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth. There was a freak out across the board because universally, I don't want to, no, I don't want to engage with that thing. And when we said, whoa, hold on a second, this is to augment the work that you do. So think about it. I said to a group of CSMs, how much time do you spend trying to figure out which customer has access to which products and which licenses they bought for those products? How much time? Oh God, Steve, ungodly amounts of hours per month. Okay, well, we just took that to zero. Oh, okay. I understand the outcome here. So And the message was, this agent will make you superhuman. It'll make you the best version of you. You will be that 10x person that you've always dreamed of being. And when we did that, plus we brought them into the process of creating, defining, etc., the adoption went through the roof. But the other thing I found out was, and just reinforced, is if you want to lose engagement with humans really quickly beyond the, like, evolve them, is make it wrong, give it bad data. And that's just, that's like, think about it, right? When back in the 2000s, when business intelligence was the thing and we said dashboards a lot, the easiest way to reduce dashboard or report adoption to zero is make the data wrong, right? And that's exactly where we are with AI, is just make its input highly variable, inaccurate. And so you got to spend time dialing it in. But I think the use cases are nearly infinite. And in a minute, I'll pause here and take a breath, but I'll tell you about this automotive agent for this automotive manufacturer that we're working on. You want to hear about it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear about the automotive agent.
Tariffs seem to be a thing right now. I don't know if you've heard anything, right?
Just a little bit.
So, this automotive company sat down with us and said, well, we have thousands and thousands of processes, back office processes, manufacturing problem, so processes in the plant, but we have no sense in real time for when a particular part is at risk for tariff impact. And that could be anything from perhaps not tier one suppliers, but tier two and tier three suppliers. So if we see a tariff go up 60%, are we going to see not just a disruption in terms of cost, but a disruption in terms of supply, right? So cost, you can kind of manage through because that's a COGS thing. But what about supply? Are we going to see the supplier just completely shut down? So how can we create agents at every single supply point in our process so that we can start to get real-time alerts? So this agent could be aware of any tariff that is specific to its part that it looks after from its particular supplier in its particular country, and it shoots a flare up to the business leaders if there's a problem coming. Now, the challenge, right? You say, well, can I just write code to do that? Yeah, but what if the tariffs are changing every week? And how do you know which website do you go to for what tariff information? And what if it's changing daily, right? This is a highly fluid situation. That's a perfect use case for AI, risk identification, highly fluid environment, and that's exactly what we're building right now. So those are the kinds of things that you can do with AI at an industry level, way, way beyond expense report approvals.
Absolutely, that's very cool. It just seemed incredibly challenging then, because you've got changing policy, stuff changing. Well, I mean, it was on a almost daily basis at one point, but yeah, and you've got to change your strategy based upon that. It requires some high level thinking, tons of different data from different sources. So this is an incredibly challenging thing to solve. It sounds like there's a huge scope then in terms of the agents you can build. You can go from something that's very narrow, mostly deterministic, and it's basically like a software workflow with a little bit of AI in there, right through to something that is incredibly complex and almost sort of employee level capabilities. Do you have a sense of like where the sweet spot is for where you should be targeting most of your efforts?
Well, I'm going to do shameless plug for a book here. Is That's why I wrote this. I mean, so digital impact, right? It's called the human element of AI driven transformation. If you want to go get a copy, but that's exactly what I talk about in the book: is the scope, the where to start. So I interview, for example, there's industry leaders that I talk to in the book. Mark Fields, who's the former CEO of Ford. I spent a ton of time interviewing Mark. Paul Cormier, the former CEO and chairman of Red Hat. Spent time with him. Vishal Sikka, the former CEO of Infosys, and just talking to these industry leaders about where they see AI and how it's going to impact those specific industries. And then there's about a dozen success stories with AI that I cover in the book. Anything that ranges from companies like Tony's Chocolonely is a case in point, to the Australian Red Cross is a great case in point. If you remember a couple years back, the wildfires that blew through Australia, they just ravaged massive portion of the country. The Australian Red Cross, prior to those wildfires, they were handling, I think, like 30 cases a day, right? Well, when there's no emergency, there's not that, as much to do. They had to scale up to 300,000 cases in 24 hours. And how they tackled that, what an incredible story. The American Cancer Society, I tell a story about how they're using data, insight, and automation to just literally arrange rides for elderly patients to go get their care. As it turns out, when you think about getting chemotherapy for somebody that's over the age of 80, their biggest challenge is actually not insurance. Their biggest challenge is, how do I get the care? How do I physically get a ride to get there? And so what a brilliant, and by the way, life-saving, life-impacting story. So the book covers literally dozens and dozens of both real-world scenarios, as well as, I'm talking to industry leaders that predict where this is all going.
I do love the stories where it's like, oh wow, well, like a real world impact that's just benefits to society, just like helping old people get to the hospital, helping deal with wildfire. This is why we do this, right? It's not just like, oh, we're we're trying to make. I mean, making more money is very nice, but having a good impact on the world is also wonderful.
Richie, you said it perfectly, because like the thing that we all have to think about, I've been in software a long time, 30 plus years now. And for 30 years, the message has been largely the same, which is, hey, if you just use this thing, all of your problems will go away. Your productivity will go through the roof. It'll be amazing. Well, here we are with AI now. But the real question is, do any of us, when we go to work, do we really feel more productive? Or do we feel burdened by technology? Oh my God, I got to log in and go, click on 17 things that I didn't want to anyway. I feel more burdened by technology today than I do enhanced. And I hope and I believe that AI this time around, and that's partly what's in the book as well, is let's get it right. Let's build software for humans. Let's take away the soul crushing work and give back more time to humans so that we can do the things that we are extraordinarily good at, that we can imagine, that we can see past what the corpus of knowledge allows for. And to maybe put the viewer or listener's mind at ease here, the thing right now that AI is good at is working within the corpus of knowledge, right? It's extraordinarily good at that. But what it is not yet good at, now, I'm not going to say never, is looking beyond that corpus of knowledge. And that's where I think humanity needs to go, is beyond the, not to get like Star Trekky, but to the next frontier. And let's imagine. And that's where I hope we are. But boy, we've got to get it right this time. And it comes back to those fundamentals we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. We use so much technology on a day-to-day basis. Some of it's joyful, but there's so much bad software that it's just an absolute grind to use. I know we've got a few builders in the audience. Please do build us some nice software. But you mentioned that things should be built for humans, and like the subtitle of your book is about the human element of AI-driven transformation. So let's talk about the humans then. So suppose you do want to make use of all this AI stuff, like what do the humans have to do? So who's involved in this? Who runs these AI transformation programs?
Well, I will say, and I will answer that question directly. I think it's worth me saying as well, we humans have to take control of this situation. And what I mean is AI. It's wonderful that Sam and his band of merry women and men, as well as Anthropic and, a couple other companies, are marching towards AGI. Well, that doesn't mean that we have to live in a world defined by Sam Altman. In fact, I refuse to live in a world defined by a dude named Sam. And I think all of us have got to put our foots down and say, no, it's not going to work that way. So that's why we built this agent control tower to start. And we're thinking at a much more grand scale around AI orchestration. We humans, this is our world. We should not cede it to an intelligence larger than us. And we end up what? Weaving baskets, and that's pretty much it. I think there has to be a better vision for the world than Sam Altman makes a lot of money and then we all lose our jobs. And so, first and foremost, we all have to put our foot down with our legislators as well as within our companies that we are going to control this. We're not going to cede control to some self driving enterprise entity. So, sorry for the rant, but that's number one. Then number two is we all have to sit down and decide within our organizations what we want AI to do. What is that waterline and what are we prepared to cede and why and how will we measure the ROI and what are we not prepared to cede to AI and why? There's just not enough of those conversations going on right now. So let's have those conversations. So if you're a CEO and you're listening and you're not driving those conversations that you don't even have a piece of paper where you've written down, all right, these are the things that are probably good for AI to do, and these are the things that are not good for AI to do in my business, then shame on you. Get your act together and pull that stuff, onto a piece of paper. So I just think that right now there are some very important conversations, both at a societal, kind of macro level that we must have, and all of us have to participate in. Because I, for one, will not sit idly by and watch Sam decide what the world's going to look like. But at the same time, we have to do that. It's kind of like think globally, act locally. We have to do that within our company level as well, which comes back to if your company doesn't have the governance platform, you're already down the wrong path.
I love that. Yeah, you got to have some limits on what do you not want to do with AI. I'm curious, do you have limits like that at Boomi? Are there any things you said, okay, we're not going to use AI for this at Boomi?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we do and do not have, our intent to do at Boomi. So first of all, when we think about the easy stuff is like, are we going to have AI run our HR team? No, no. As far as I'm concerned now, are there productivity enhancing elements? Sure. But people manage and lead with people. That's the way this works. And until I see an AI that demonstrates true empathy and understanding, no. And the easy way to think about it is go ask an employee, anyone, just go to work or one of your colleagues and say, would you be comfortable with AI conducting your annual compensation review? Would you?
That's pretty brutal. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe not.
Now, I'm sure there's somebody that's going to find the exception and go, hey, Steve, I think AI could be more impartial than a human. Maybe. But I'm still not going to have AI do my comp review. That is not happening. So there's that, right? So I think so for me, people leading people is an area where I do not believe AI should go right now. I think, we talk about AI writing code. I absolutely think that AI should build code. But the real question is, where does the innovation come from? AI, again, working within the corpus of knowledge that it has, right? It has data and synthetic data to go model its recommendations on. But I can tell you, even the most sophisticated AI models that we've laid our hands on, they are not coming up with the innovative, beyond the frontier ideas that my engineers do today. And they will continue to do that for a long time. Again, no matter what Sam says. So there is that. So that's the second thing. So I think people, leadership, obviously the innovation concepts, all of that. And there's a long list of things that we've drawn that we believe AI should currently not do. So, we'll see where this game goes. But I do think that, for the next 3 to 5 years, I think what I'm arguing will largely be realistic and kind of manageable within the world of software. And I realize, again, if you're like the AI, dude or dudette or whatever, that you're going to argue against this. But businesses right now need to focus on the most practical rate of return AI scenarios out there. If we don't, and we try a bunch of science projects and it fails, it sets it back years. That's all.
Okay, yeah, that seems very practical advice, and certainly, it may be fun to do these sort of science projects. And if you're a research organization, probably go for it. But in general, yeah, I would stick to what's sort of going to give you a high chance of getting you a good return on investment. Cool. So, one thing that's kind of the tricky part is you got to change all your processes to incorporate AI in some way. How does that act of process re-engineering work? How do you go about it?
Well, most organizations today have some fairly sophisticated software process, their, process discovery technology. They've got a lot of their processes mapped. Now, if you don't, then you probably should go through a process discovery, process mapping process, kind of process. Once you've done that, then conveniently, and here's where AI can come in, we have technology that can optimize those processes for you. Out of our 23,000 plus customers that we have, Boomi as a company, we have almost 500 million with a B, unique business processes that we have mapped and modeled over time. So we have a intergalactically large database that we've put the processes into a vectorized model, and now we can interrogate and understand, and AI can talk to it. That's awesome. But that process optimization, what you're looking for, I'll give you a perfect example. So if you have a process that is a deterministic, we'll go back to what we talked about at the beginning, a deterministic process that has 2,000 steps in it. Our model can look at that and say, I could probably skinny that down from 2,000 steps to 20. And the reason and how we could do that is if you create agents for these 5 or 6 things that kind of the bulk of the process, now you have maybe 15 deterministic steps and 5 agents, right? So that kind of process transformation is the kind of discussion and exploration that we can have with any customer. Because again, what doesn't change is you're doing integration, you're doing automation of your business. You're just doing it with more intelligent elements in the process. So that's kind of how I think about it. But I think process discovery and then there's process remapping. There's one company we're working with right now where they have an antiquated billing system, and it's probably 25 years old is it's implemented in 2000. And they're looking to modernize that billing process without ripping out the guts of it. So it's how do we bring agents that can be invoked at certain pieces and parts of the process. So we've integrated Boomi, and there's trigger points in the process that we shoot a flare up, an agent does some work, and then we inject the output from that agent back into the billing process. Seems fairly straightforward, but when you're dealing with code that was written 25 years ago, that's the hard part. That's what Boomi excels at, is we can work in a hybrid environment where you've got an on-premise old school billing system, you've got a modern cloud interface for your customers, but you want to agentify, to use that buzzword, the process and make it significantly more modern. That's what we do.
There was one part that kind of scared me though. Did you say you have 500 million processes? Like the idea of writing down like one process, that seems a lot of effort to me. Getting all your processes documented at scale, how does that work?
Well, ironically, we wrote an agent for that. So, and now to be clear, we've been storing metadata so with 23,000 customers, it's really not that hard to get to 500 million processes. We've been storing metadata about those processes. We don't actually store the customer, the data within the process. That's not something that our customers would allow us to do, and rightfully so. But the metadata about the processes, those have gone in for over a decade from our company into a database that we've had and managed and curated, and it's helped us deliver better solutions, which is a good idea. And then along comes, generative pre-trained transformers, large language models, and we then started to move that data into more of a vectorized database. And then that gives you the ability to then start to have the AI refer to it as well as fine tune the AI that we use. And then we said, all right, now the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to build an agent that documents all of these processes. So we literally have an agent where you can say, hey, I just built a business process, document the whole thing, everything about it for me. And over time, we've refined this agent. It's one of our most popular ones. So here's a case in point. So when we launched it, we actually launched a number of AI agents about almost a year and a half ago. Not quite, but almost. And those AI agents, they help our customers do things like document processes, even build processes. You can literally say to one of our agents, hey, I need you to build an employee onboarding process for me. And it just does it because it knows the systems that you have and the data and blah, blah, blah. So we have that. We have another process that monitors all of your data for PII, personal or private information infraction. So if you're moving data from France to the US when you shouldn't, it kind of lights up a little dashboard and says, not good. And so all of those existed, or so we launched a year and a half ago. We have about 40,000 of those AI agents that are in daily active use in our customer base now. So our customers are actively using these agents to document processes, build processes, monitor data, and that has exceeded my expectations. So these are not cutesy little, co-pilots that go, hey, you got a spelling error. These are real hardcore heavy lift agents. And we have a massive a deployed base of those agents now. It adds up very quickly to this flywheel where you're starting to get more insight and the agents get better and there's reinforcement learning with the agents. It's quite the flywheel.
Absolutely. That does sound fantastic. But 40,000 agents, this is in production just with your customers. Can you jump with you, like, what do you think the ratio of like work being done by humans to work being done by agents is at the moment?
Well, I mean, just even a year ago, I would have said that it was more like pre the launch of these agents, let alone our agent builder platform. I would have said 100% of the work in Boomi is being done by humans a year ago. And I'd say today, it's probably 80% of the work being done by humans, but 20% by AI. Now, interestingly, there's work that was never done by humans. Let's take documentation. Look, we had the ability for people to document processes, but again, that's soul crushing work. Who writes stuff down? I'm kind of joking a little bit, but not really, right? It's like, and if you do document a process, it's like 7 words. It's like, yes, it monitors, beer production. Done. It's just, the documentation was never thorough and detailed. The documentation that is done by our agents today, first of all, it's done. Second of all, it's comprehensive. And third, it's compliant, right? Our organizations and our customers they work in high compliance requirement industries. And so even just giving them that capability is amazing. But I'd say probably in a year, we've gone from 0 to 20% of the work done by AI.
That's very impressive, and I agree on documentation. I hate writing things down. It's like I don't think many humans do enjoy it. So yeah, certainly a great candidate for outsourcing stuff. What's the end game for this then? Like, how much of your business do you think you can have running using agents?
80% of the work should be done by AI. 80%. Now, that takes time. The one thing I will caveat that with is, we want to make, anyone that uses Boomi ridiculously productive in terms of integrating and automating their company. That's what we want to do. But we also want to gift them the ability to create their own agents to do whatever they want, right? And that's what we launched probably like 3 weeks ago is Agent Studio, the create agents without code and then govern them with the platform. But I kind of think of the analogy like self-driving cars. And I know how people can kind of get, a little futzy about how they feel about Tesla. So let's not use Tesla as the analog. But when you observe self-driving cars, it's not like we got into a Tesla 3 years ago and it just drove all around the city, right? It kind of originally if you remember, it had like adaptive cruise control. You could get on the highway and it kind of slow down, speed up, and then it kept you in the lane automatically. And eventually now there's self-driving cars that will take the dramatic turn left across oncoming traffic or right if you're in the UK. But we do that. And so we've had these incremental steps where the AI in the cars, it's gotten smarter. You can go to San Francisco now and get your Waymo app and click a button, and there's nobody in the car, and it comes and picks you up and drives you wherever. And so I think with Boomi, we have that similar vision, right? Which is you will always use the service like Waymo for transportation. You'll use Boomi to do integration and automation, but we would love for the Boomi cars, so to speak, to come pick you up and take you on an amazing drive and make it awesome.
Nice. So it does seem like you can really push this very long way, but the trick is do it in stages rather than like don't try and jump to your own business according to the self-driving car straight away.
Well, that's the thing. So I think maybe if I rewrote the book, I'd probably title it Self-Driving Enterprise, because we will get there, but it will be many moons.
Nice. Something to look forward to. All right. So I'm curious, do you have any final advice on just how you can go about like building agents into your enterprise workflows then?
Well, beyond the get your data right, drive the governance, which we talked about many times, is you just gotta start now, right? It's like, I mean, if you're not, the safest thing I could possibly say in this conversation, Richie, is if you are not proactively building agents, transforming your processes into agentic processes, you will be the next blockbuster video. You will be that. And whereas we all have that blockbuster cautionary tale, Netflix got the internet right, blah, 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 there will be a million blockbuster videos. There will just be a million companies that just cannot compete with largely AI driven or agentic processes. That the company that can go from, hey, I'm automated, yay for me, which there's still a lot of companies that are not doing well with automation. But the companies that can go from I'm semi or automated to 50% of my processes are driven through agentic, process, they will win. But you've got to do it quickly. And if you don't do it now, I can promise you, you will be blockbuster video.
There's a big gap there between my business has gone completely folded and I'm making a large amount of money. Yeah, everyone wants to be Netflix rather than Blockbuster. So just finally, I always want recommendations for people to follow. So whose work are you most excited about at the moment? Who should I be looking into?
Well, shoot, I'm going to contradict myself and say like if you are not daily staying in tune with, across primarily three entities, right? Anthropic and Claude, the engine that they have, OpenAI with ChatGPT, as well as Operator and many other things that they have. But Google with Gemini, I think Google kind of went from last technologically 2 years ago to really a leader in this space in many fronts. Like you got to stay on top of what they're doing. So I would really kind of like you've got to be dialed into news feeds. But then I will say you got to stay dialed in there, but take what they say with a grain of salt. There's their job is to kind of overhype this because it gets headlines. But it is one of those things that I have spent more time in the past 2 years relearning everything I know about software than I did in the previous 25.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much exciting stuff coming out all the time. So yeah, certainly following OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they're just churning out like lots of interesting things. Cool. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Steve. That was fantastic.
It was a pleasure. It's great to talk to you.